Good morning, everybody, and I hope you've had a really good first week back. I know that all of your staff have been really pleased to see you, and it's lovely to have the school building back full of students in the way that schools are intended to be. I want to talk to you briefly this morning about homework now that we are back in school. Clearly, during our period of lockdown and remote learning, all of your work, for the majority of you, was done at home. And homework in and of itself was not set, apart from activities that may have consolidated the learning a little further. It's worth starting by reminding ourselves, well, why do we do homework? And we do homework because the research shows us very clearly that meaningful homework that's set consistently and that's consistently by the students done to the best of their abilities can actually add additional progress onto a student's learning. Depending on what research you have a look at, that can be anywhere between 5 and 12 months additional progress in any one academic year. And your two pieces of places that you might be interested in having a look to back that up are the Educational Endowment Fund and the work brought together by John Hattie in Visible Learning. And there are links to this on our website should you be interested. So first and foremost, we set homework because we know that good homework done well can make sure that our students are making additional progress in their learning, and that is obviously a good thing. Now, I mentioned the idea of meaningful homework, and that of course is what all our staff are trying to ensure, that the homework that we set is meaningful. So what does that mean? Well, it could be some homework that either builds on something that was learned in a lesson, or it prepares you for something that's coming really shortly. Often staff use homework because it's going to build into some kind of low stakes quiz, something that's not huge like a big end of unit test, but it's something that's just small that helps your teachers to understand what has kind of stuck in your longer term memory and what has fallen out of it, and it helps them to think about where they're going to pitch the lesson next. It could be that the homework is set because it will really deepen and broaden your understanding of a topic. Lots of you during home learning have had some fantastic success with the work that we've done and the things that we wanted you to learn. And often homework for those kinds of students is about deepening your understanding of something. Whatever it is, it's there for those bottom two reasons. It's there to help develop you as an independent worker, somebody who is resilient, somebody who can keep themselves motivated, somebody who can get themselves going so that they are working at home. And all of those things are why homework really does support your progress. Now, it's been quite a while, as I say, that you'll have had any homework set potentially, and I just wanted to remind you of what our homework policy actually states. At Key Stage 3, you should be expecting to receive homework once every 3 lessons. So for subjects that you have it 3 times a week, that would be once a week. For subjects that you only have it once every week, then that would be once every 3 weeks. At Key Stage 4, those of you in Year 10 and Year 11, then you should expect that we are setting homework once a week in all of the subjects that you are working on. How long might you take on a piece of homework? Well, we would recommend that at Key Stage 3, you're spending up to 45 minutes on a piece of learning, a piece of work, and at Key Stage 4, up to 60 minutes. If you need to work longer than that, then it might well be that that piece of homework is a little bit tricky for you and you found things difficult. Explain that to your teachers and that you tried to the best of your ability, and your teachers will understand. And if you found things difficult, your teachers will find it far more helpful if you're trying to explain to them the bit that you found difficult, and then they can reflect on that and think about how best to. Lots of us do find organising ourselves really difficult, and that might be especially the case after this period of remote learning. The more that the inside of your mind, or maybe the inside of your bedroom, looks like the picture that you can see on the screen, then the more difficult that can be. So one of the things that you really need to do is to think about your own regular routine for doing homework. Is it something that you do as soon as you get in from school so that it's out of the way? Do you have a set time during the week? How do you remember to check whether homework has been set for you? Do you set yourself an alarm on your mobile phone or on your watch to remind you to take a look, or to remind you to sit down and do some homework? Are you somebody who needs some kind of background noise to help you concentrate? I find it really hard, for instance, to mark any work without some kind of background music. I kind of get fidgety when things are really quiet. But equally, lots of us have the opposite scenario, that if there's lots going on in the background, we're easily distracted. So you need to work out what works best for you. The biggest advice that I would always give is to make sure that you're doing your homework in plenty of time rather than just in time, because your teachers can set the most meaningful homework in the world, but if you're not doing it consistently and as well as you can, then it's not going to have the same impact for you. So think about your support network. Do you need to speak to parents and carers to help you get organised? Do you work well with friends? Can you remind one another? Can you send each other messages to help each other with a piece of work? Or, heaven forbid, ring each other up maybe, or FaceTime, and help one another in that way. Remember, your teachers and your teaching assistants are there to help. One reason that we always advocate doing your homework with plenty of time rather than just in time is so that you can go back to your teachers or your teaching assistants and say, I'm finding this really tricky, could you help? Over remote learning, we all got used to using the Microsoft Teams platforms and using assignments potentially and using ClassNote and OneNotebook. And that's where we're going to set your homework for the remainder of this academic year. That will mean that, heaven forbid, if we do have to go into another lockdown scenario, and we really hope that we don't, we are still familiar with how to use Microsoft Teams. But just in case you're not aware, you get into your assignments by going onto the school website, clicking on quick links and going into Office 365. That's why it's really important that you don't forget your school email details and your password, because that's all you need to get onto the school site. And then, of course, you go into Microsoft Teams, and then the easiest place to find all of your assignments in one place is to go into the tab there that's called Assignments. And you can see with the example on the screen, it will list for you all of your homeworks and when they are due in. So I just showed you the easiest way to find all of your assignments, but you still can find them by going into your individual lesson team. So you click on team, you see all of your teams and click on the one that you want, and then you can find it in your individual team just by clicking on assignments there at the top, as you can see, and that will show you your assignments in that particular topic area. Your teachers will set meaningful homework and they will be using that homework. That's what we mean by meaningful. It will do something. They will record on Bromcom rewards for where you've handed homework in on time, or if your homework is of a particularly good quality. They will also be recording if you do not hand your homework in on time. And that is the case that if that's happening on a regular basis, then we will consider whether there are some of you that need to be staying behind after school on a regular basis to be able to be doing your homework. We might acknowledge your homework in a number of ways. We might give you verbal feedback in the lesson. We might give you written feedback. It might well be that we expect you to use that homework as an integral part of the lesson, and that just becomes then part of the feedback that we are giving to your work in general. So for instance, if you've been doing some research that's going to feed into something that you're doing in class, then the feedback will be about that project that's happening in class. Or if your homework has been about revising something for one of those low stakes quizzes in class, then your feedback is clearly going to be your score. In other words, your teachers will not write on your homework every single time, even where you've uploaded that to Teams and there's a feedback box. It's the decision of the teacher how they're going to respond to that homework in the way that is going to best suit the reason that that homework has been set. The instructions on assignments will tell you for each and every piece of homework how they want you to upload or to hand in your work. It might well be that that teacher wants you to actually attach your work to the assignment, and if that's the case, that makes things nice and easy for you because you don't need to remember to bring it in, you just need to remember to do it. And you use that little paperclip icon that I've got circled on the screen for you there to add your work. If your teacher has asked you to upload your work to assignments and you've attached it using that little paperclip icon that we've just talked about, it's really important that you remember to click Hand In. If you don't click Hand In, then your teacher won't be able to see the work. But that's only one way in which you could be handing in your work. It might be that you've got to physically bring something in on paper. It might be that you are learning something that's going to be used in the lesson, or it's going to be a little quiz in the lesson, in which case there might be nothing to hand in because it will feed into the work that's done in the lesson that is due in. Make sure, therefore, that you do read the instructions really clearly so that you know how to hand the homework in. And that's why, to go back what we've said earlier, it's important that you do your homework with plenty of time rather than just in time, so that if you're unsure, your responsibility is to simply ask your teacher or your teaching assistant for them to go over the instructions again with you, or anything that you're not clear on, and they'll only be too happy to help. So I hope you found that useful. You will be able to see this presentation on our website. If you need to watch it again, it will be under Learners at Bradfield. Thank you for listening.